Today is a special day for me as I find myself at home, surrounded by walls filled with memories. George is here as well, radiating pride and joy. He's wandering through the rooms with enthusiasm, and I can't help but feel his energy inspiring me. We're in the central part of my family's home, the place where my father's dreams were realized. He poured years of hard work into building this place, and now it's valued at a staggering $100 million. It's like a symbol of his legacy, something he left behind when he passed. Now that my father is no longer with me, my husband is looking to claim a part of our family's inheritance. He argues that what once belonged to me should now be shared between us, but I know the truth. I have documentation, papers with my name, Linda, proving I'm the rightful owner. At 42, I work in the digital sector, thanks to my job at an online bank. This career wasn't just a stroke of luck. It was shaped by the financial lessons my parents instilled in me. They taught me how crucial it is to manage money wisely, and those lessons are still with me today. Growing up in a wealthy household, my parents taught me to appreciate money and never take it for granted. Despite our wealth, they made sure I didn't grow up spoiled. My allowance was like any other child's, and we didn't dine in luxury every night. I attended a regular public school, not an elite private one. Still, rumors about our wealth spread, and people assumed my life was all about luxury and indulgence because of our big house and fortune. Linda, with a house like yours and all that money, life must be a breeze. You must have all the latest gadgets and toys. Can we come over to play? People would ask questions like this, thinking I had it all, but in reality, my life wasn't as glamorous as they imagined. I didn't have the newest toys or gaming consoles, though people assumed I did. It often felt like others wanted to be friends with me only because of my family's wealth. Linda, you're rich, right? Can you lend me some money? These types of requests always made me uncomfortable. It felt as though people didn't grasp the values my parents had taught me. Then, I found myself in a difficult situation when I accidentally broke Maria's gaming console. I didn't have any money at the time, which only made matters worse. Around this time, Grace and I became classmates. She asked if I had told my parents about the incident, but I was too afraid of disappointing them to speak up. I can't tell them, they might get mad, I explained. That's why I'm asking you, Linda, she admitted. Saying no felt horrible, especially since I didn't want things to become awkward at school, but my parents had always been firm about not lending money, so I had to apologize to Grace and explain that I couldn't help. After I turned Grace down, she began to cry, and rumors soon started to spread. People accused me of refusing to help a friend in need. Even though my family had money, I tried to clarify that I simply didn't have the funds, but it didn't seem to matter. Then Maria said something particularly hurtful. She implied that I valued money more than friendship. The situation escalated when Maria and Grace started spreading false stories, claiming I owed them money and refused to pay for the broken console. Eventually, the school got involved and reprimanded Maria and Grace, but the rumors only got worse and eventually reached my parents. My dad took action and organized a meeting with their families. Although they apologized, I decided to distance myself from Maria and Grace after that. I still had to endure their glares and whispers, but at least the direct confrontation stopped. That evening, at dinner, my father shared some advice that stayed with me. He said, "It's important to stick to your decisions, especially when it comes to money. Linda, it's okay to say no." He smiled and added, "You don't owe anyone an explanation about your finances. If someone keeps asking, just tell them you need to check with your parents, even if you already know the answer." This advice about handling money with integrity and standing firm on boundaries became a guiding principle as I grew older. I became more selective about who I allowed into my life, focusing on friendships built on trust and character, not financial status. After university, I made sure to keep my personal and professional lives separate to avoid financial complications. This experience taught me how important it is to set boundaries in both relationships and finances, shaping the person I am today. When I turned 35, I met George through a mutual friend. Despite being a few years younger, his genuine nature won me over quickly. We began dating casually, and before long, it became a serious relationship. 2 years later, we had a beautiful wedding, making my parents incredibly happy. After we had been married for a month, my dad suggested George come over to visit. I trusted George, but I was concerned he might accidentally reveal private family matters because he tends to be chatty. Still, after a month of marriage, I felt ready to share everything with him, so I invited him to our family home. George was blown away when he saw the house. His surprise was clear. indicating he hadn't realized just how affluent my family was. Despite the positive visit, George couldn't stop asking about our wealth. On the drive home, I realized I didn't know much about our finances myself, and his questions made me uneasy. A few months after our wedding, my mom called to tell me my dad was in the hospital. I was shocked, especially since I hadn't known he was ill. Reflecting on our last visit, I remembered how he hadn't seemed well, which now filled me with worry and guilt. When I arrived at the hospital with my mom that Saturday, my dad tried to stay upbeat, but we could tell he was feeling down. He apologized for being a burden, showcasing his caring nature. The doctors then told us he had advanced pancreatic cancer, and it was too late for surgery. It felt like a punch to the gut. We couldn't believe someone as health-conscious as my dad could be so sick. After the diagnosis, my dad remained strong. All he wanted was for us to be happy, which made us all emotional. I wanted to be with him every moment, but hospital policies allowed only immediate family to visit. He wished for our friends to be there to make happy memories at home, a reminder of the life he wanted for us. I promised to keep our home filled with joy, even after his passing. That promise became a central focus for me. I decided to renovate our family home, a project that gave me something to concentrate on during such a difficult time. George, ever thoughtful, worried about how much I was doing for my dad, unaware of the other challenges I was facing, such as unresolved family estate matters I hadn't shared with him. When George asked about my dad's health, I finally opened up to George about everything we were facing, and it felt like a weight had been lifted. Having his support while balancing work, hospital visits, and the emotional turmoil. However, things took a turn when George began probing into my father's finances and family estate. He even suggested getting legal advice in case something happened to my mom. This brought up painful memories of my father's meticulous planning, and George's insistence on being cautious with money started creating tension between us. A few months later, my dad passed away after a courageous battle with his illness. Then, the family discussions about inheritance began. I ended up inheriting a large house worth $5 million, but George's growing interest in the estate, despite my efforts to keep him out of it, made things increasingly difficult. He was eager to move into the mansion and kept asking about financial matters, which caught me off guard. Later, I learned he had been speaking to my cousin at the funeral, who suggested that the house would be wasted if left vacant. That made everything even more complicated. Despite my attempts to explain that the inheritance wasn't something we shared, George didn't seem to understand. Our relationship became strained as a result. Even though he was present at my dad's funeral, George didn't help with the memorial services or the legal matters that followed. As time passed and life started to settle, George dropped a bombshell. He revealed that he had transferred ownership of our family home into his name and had legal papers to prove it. I was devastated. Not only had he betrayed my trust, but it showed a deep lack of respect for our relationship and boundaries. The inheritance issues brought even bigger challenges to our marriage. We were forced to reevaluate what we valued, how much we trusted each other, and where our relationship was headed. When George told me he had changed the ownership of the house without consulting me, I was hurt and shocked. He said he was tired of our marriage and suggested we live as roommates in the house, with little financial support. He even threatened divorce if I didn't agree, which was an overwhelming demand on top of everything else. I pleaded with him to reconsider and to explain why he had made such a major decision without talking to me first. He told me he had consulted a lawyer about changing the ownership without my consent. The situation deteriorated so much that divorce seemed inevitable. I was heartbroken, feeling as though I needed to distance myself from the life I had shared with George. I couldn't comprehend why he would do something like this, and it seemed as though money had completely changed him. The following day, George demanded the house keys, claiming it was now his property. This only escalated the situation. He tried to force his way into the house, but security stopped him. I showed them the real ownership papers, proving that the house was mine due to my father's legacy. George was stunned. He had trusted a man named Jerry with the legal matters, and Jerry had deceived him. George had even paid Jerry $360,000 to change the ownership, but it turned out to be a scam. George was furious. He tried calling Jerry, but Jerry ignored him, angry at being swindled. George then turned his frustration on me, accusing me of spending money on unnecessary things and questioning my understanding of inheritance matters. Even though George tried to make amends and suggested we give our marriage another chance, the damage to our trust was irreversible. I had security help him leave, effectively closing a painful chapter of my life. In the months that followed, I had time to reflect on everything that had happened. It made me realize how crucial trust and honesty are in a relationship. The lies and betrayal from George taught me to be more discerning, never allowing money to cloud my judgment. During my father's first memorial service at the family temple, George appeared unexpectedly. Since our divorce, things had not been going well for him. He was jobless, struggling financially, and it seemed like the people he trusted had let him down. Standing there at the memorial, he looked despondent, in stark contrast to the solemnity of the occasion. Tearfully, he tried to apologize, but his actions unintentionally caused a disturbance among my relatives. Despite his emotional distress, I had to ask him to leave, and security ensured it happened. It was a painful moment, especially during such a significant occasion, but it also marked the beginning of my resolve to move forward and leave our past behind. It was time for me to leave my parents' home, something I had been planning for a while. I found a new place to live and officially cut ties with George. Meanwhile, George continued to visit the family property, which we had converted into a rental villa. My mom and I managed the villa together, transforming it into a joyful destination for many guests. George seemed to be making strides to rebuild his life. He found a new job and appeared focused on starting fresh. The decision to turn our family home into a rental villa not only honored my father's vision but also created a welcoming space for people from all walks of life. The villa, with its breathtaking views and lush garden, quickly became a sought-after location. We hosted various events, from intimate weddings to large family celebrations. Working on the villa with my mom brought us closer and filled our lives with happiness. As the villa's popularity grew, we decided to enhance it further by adding a swimming pool, a cozy outdoor lounge, and a play area for children. Our dedication to ensuring our guests had an unforgettable experience paid off. The villa became a top destination for those seeking a peaceful retreat and memorable moments. This project wasn't just about financial gain, it was about fulfilling my father's dream and creating meaningful memories for our visitors. Caring for the villa's garden gave me a profound sense of fulfillment. Watching our family home transform into a place where people could gather, have fun, and create lasting memories made me incredibly proud. I could almost feel my father's presence, knowing he would be proud of what we had achieved. Bringing his vision to life, this endeavor not only gave us financial stability but also a sense of freedom. Along the way, I learned valuable lessons about trust, money, and the resilience needed to carve my own path away from the shadows of the past. This journey of self-discovery showed me that facing challenges head-on can make you stronger and more determined. I heard from friends that George was slowly turning his life around, finding meaningful work and learning from his mistakes. Knowing that he was making progress gave me peace of mind, as it meant both of us were moving forward and growing. My father's dream became a source of inspiration not just for me and my mom, but for everyone who visited the rental villa. It became a place of joy and celebration, a sanctuary where lasting memories were made. The villa's success stands as a testament to my father's vision, reminding us of the values of perseverance and hard work. Through this venture, we've created more than just a place to stay. It's a source of happiness, a place for making memories, and proof that dreaming big and putting in the effort can lead to incredible outcomes.